Sheltered. Is it worth a buy? Let's read the words of the developer. Sheltered is a deep and emotional survival management game. You take on the role of protecting four family members who, after the global apocalypse, have found their way. You take on the role of protecting four family members who, after a global apocalypse, have found their way to a deserted shelter. Yes, guys, it's another one of those games where you have to survive in a hole in the ground while lots of shit goes on outside above you. It's quite a awful looking game, this. I'm not into all this kind of 8-bit looking stuff. I recently did 8-bit Invaders, which isn't really 8-bit, but it's pretending to be, even though it actually doesn't look 8-bit. This is very kind of 80s looking, and I don't kind of, I love the artwork, because I fucking hate the artwork. I think for 2016 we shouldn't be served up shit looking games like this. But it's a good game. It's actually a good game, this, despite looking like a bowl of cold vomit. It's really fun to play. It's one of those management games where everything that you do matters, where you have to really plan out what you're going to do. You can only do a certain amount of things in the time limit that you've kind of got before you collapse, that you have to decide which ones you're going to do. You start off the game with four family members and you pick their traits, so it's got RPG elements in this where you choose the kind of people that they're going to be and what their traits is going to be, where to put their points. Even though you don't actually put points into like strength, endurance, dexterity and things, you choose from preset M's, and that defines your characters. And you get 4 to start with. You're a family unit, but you can add to that. You get to choose a pet. It's either a horse, a cat, a dog, or and you can have 2 kids, 2 adults. And that's pretty much the way it is. What you have to do is you start off in this mucky hole in the ground with nothing. You've got a workbench and a shitty generator and a water bottle that catches rain, and that's pretty much it. You get a few rations as well, and the object of the game is to survive as long as possible. You do this by sending family members out into the world on what's called an expedition. Now, there's different areas in the world where you can send them, although you don't actually see them there really. It's kind of like, they went out and have come back with 2 tins of this, a bit of rope and some aluminium or something. You don't actually take them out and do stuff. Now, if something happens to them while they're out there, then you will get to see what's going on. They might run into somebody who's trying to steal off them. It might run into a trader. They might run into somebody who just, wants to say hi. Although generally speaking, they want to bash you over the head with a bat. They may run into animals. There's bears, and if you do run into a bear, top tip, don't run over and hit it on the head with an iron bar. It doesn't really do much. Now, also, before you send people out on an expedition, you have to equip them with stuff like a gas mask, a weapon, and you have to make sure you have enough water. And water is the name of the game with this. You can only get water when it rains, so you have to collect the water by building water collectors. But you're showering and drinking and shitting, and you're using up water all the time. Just going on an expedition uses water, so you have to plan everything. You have to have food going on, and your rations are going to be running out sooner or later, and then you're just living off what's out there. Deers, rabbits, rats, if you have a cat that can catch them, and you're going to get food poisoning unless you can cook it. So to cook it, you need to build a stove, and you see where it's going. You have to build a fridge, you have to build a freezer, you have to build all the stuff to survive. Now, I'm really learning this IRL since I've got my own place and I'm living by myself. It's like, I'm realizing that I can't open this tin of beans because I didn't buy a fucking tin opener. When I first got here, I didn't have a knife and fork. I didn't even have a plate. I had nothing. I didn't even have a kettle. There was no Yorkshire tea. And I had to make an expedition to Tesco's. Now, obviously, I didn't get attacked on the way there, although I did have to go through a chav estate and had a few close calls with Big Fat Bertha with her Jack Russell and 2 pit bulls. But I'm learning that toilet roll doesn't just appear in the toilet. I'm realizing that you have to actually buy that. You see, when I was married, well, I still am technically, but when I lived with my wife, she did all that. I didn't know you had to buy toilet roll. And so you're sitting there having a shit and you reach for it and there's no toilet roll and you think, shit. Exactly, shit. I didn't buy toilet roll. I never thought of buying air freshener. What? These things, I'm a man, I don't know about this. No one told me. And so you're sitting there on the crapper with a... Yeah, thank God for Hansa. So I'm learning all this in this game, and as I'm playing the game, I'm realizing how important it is in the real world. And because of my real world recent experiences, I'm kind of like, yeah, this is. So it's one of those games where you get achievements, not like in Steam achievements. It's one of these games where you kind of think, I built that shower. I feel like I've achieved something. I built that stove. You are eating because I built that stove. You can sleep on that bed because I upgraded my bench to tier 2 and built a tier 2 bed. You get all these little things going on. You have that gun and ammunition because I built an ammunition press and I found all the stuff that needed. You were eating that deer because I crafted a rope trap and put it outside and trapped that deer, cooked it on the stove that I built, and you are now shitting it down the toilet that I built. It's that kind of game, guys. It's a expansion game where you start off with the little tiny shelter and you can expand it and build bigger rooms, more rooms. You can have a shit ton of rooms. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of footage to show you on this because I played a lot of this on a different Steam account, which I wasn't recording on, so there's a bit of footage missing, but you get the idea from what I'm saying. It's a very fun game to play if you're into this kind of survival management. It's not like where you control any kind of action. I mean, the combat is very turn based. You know, you get your turn to hit, they get their turn to hit, and it all number crunches with how much strength you've got, what kind of weapon you've got, what the damage is of that. You know how these RPG games work. It's that kind of game, but it is fun. It is kind of satisfying to play this game and know that you're surviving and against the odds, and you have to drink when it rains, and as soon as it rains I get everybody in the shower now while it's raining, you know, because the water goes down but the rain replenishes it. And so you've got a lot of things to think about with this game. It's £10, which, you know, is a bit steep considering how, you know, bad it looks, but you know, you can't judge a game on its graphics, and it is fun to play, and I'm going to thumb it up because it's one of the better survival post-apocalyptic RPGs out there. So there you go, guys. Sheltered is worth a buy.